and I talked to Erik, he is my son, and we're also best friends.
Sting and Dr. Death Steve Williams versus Erik Watts and Jushin Thunder Liger.
Yes.
Erik Watts is fascinating, and at the time, people were very, very aware that he was in this position because of his father, Bill Watts, running WCW. The passage of time has only made it seem even worse. It really, really does. It is a weird thing for your dad to do, which is to put
you in the spotlight, really ruin you.
Yeah, and in this case, in this match, his first pay-per-view match, he puts him in the ring, not just like pushing him beyond his abilities, but against a legitimately frightening man in Dr. Death, who is the son that Bill Watts clearly wishes he'd had. It's a really horrible psychodrama where you're like pushing your useless son and you are also allowing him to be hurt by the man you're in love with.
Yeah.
Just a weird couple of decisions.
It's kinky. I'll tell you what.
Out comes Erik. When they actually have him out as well, they have Sting come in first, so they all cheer Sting. And I think there's a sense of going, then get Erik out, because the cheers will still be going on, and it'll be difficult for them to go from a cheer to a boo.
Yeah.
So, that will smooth it over ever so slightly. They mention that he's Bill Watts' son twice just on the way to the ring. If you can
really
imagine that,
hang him out to dry.
That 15 seconds where he has to get to the ring and they're just like, here he is, it's Bill Watts' son. Here is the son of Bill Watts. Sting and Liger, people are really excited about. I'm not sure they ever had a singles match one-on-one. They may have done. It might have been a house show one.
I mean, that looks like it's a proper Power Rangers kind of like
it
isn't it? One superhero against another.
Yeah, and the crowd are actually really into it. I think because it isn't just men in tights.
Yeah.
You've got genuine sort of superhero looking. That's the razzle-dazzle of wrestling.
Yeah,
that's why it's exciting.
That's why WCW went badly, because the boss goes, none of that, please.
Yes, don't do your fucking exciting things. Watts, though, in this match, I mean, he really is appalling. He's so bad. He looks like a sort of big Nicholas Lyndhurst, and he also young Hugh Dennis.
Right, yeah,
a long, young Hugh Dennis. And I don't think his wrestling ability is necessarily different from those two men. Put Lyndhurst in, you would get sort of something slightly similar. There's a couple of bits where he does a blind tag to Jushin Liger as he comes off the ropes, and then he continues to bounce off the other side of the ropes. But he's already giving up.
Yeah.
And so rather than sort of do a double team move as Liger comes in, he just sort of skips round Dr. Death and then goes to his corner. And it's all this sort of wasted stuff where you begin going, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, you don't want to get involved because you're scared of fucking it up.
You can't think as well about what you're doing in 2 seconds. No. You just don't have that knowledge. He's been pushed much too quickly.
Yeah.
Whether he could have been quite a good wrestler. And, Dustin Rhodes is the other example of someone who was pushed through nepotism. But Dustin Rhodes did have a bit more training. He wasn't a rookie, and they are putting a rookie into a match that involves Sting, Dr. Death, and Jushin Liger. There is no way that should have been allowed to happen. People were really aware of it at the time, as I say, but watching it back, you just go, this seems mad. This is just weird.
Erik Watts, one of the rising young stars in World Championship Wrestling. A man who has entered pro wrestling with some very strong embedded feelings. Feelings on leadership.
When I think of leadership, I think of what my father always told me. To be a leader, never a follower. You've got to be a leader to be successful. And I plan on bringing this leadership to WCW with me.
Feelings on competition.
When I think of competition, I think of a sport. In every sport, you got to be competitive to win.
Feelings on intimidation.
Intimidation, one of the most important factors of all sports. When I think of intimidation, I think of Big Van Vader. Think about Rick Rude. Think about Sting, who brings a whole new word to intimidation with all these stingers. If I have to, I'll bring my own intimidation to the ring. Pro wrestling, there's only one goal: the World Heavyweight Champion, WCW.
Dr. Death is actually as frightening in this match as he is in any There's two things at play here. One is that Jushin Liger is wrestling for New Japan, and Dr. Death Steve Williams
That's right,
is a wrestler for All Japan.
And they do mention that quite a lot, to be fair. They do.
Credit. The level of politics between those two companies. So there wouldn't have been a thing where Liger would not have been allowed to pin Steve Williams. You know, Steve Williams would not have been allowed to pin Liger because the two offices would have said absolutely no way. It would be like having in Japan a WCW wrestler and a WWF wrestler. Neither of them are going to have a pinfall. So Erik Watts is the hit. The hit. He is the guy who's going to do the job. But what happens in this is Williams is obviously like, I'm in here with Jushin Liger. So what I will do is I will show the dominance of my company. Yeah. I'm a good company man over our rivals. And so he begins just manhandling the much smaller Jushin Liger. And what happens is that Sting notices this and he's like, oh, I might do a bit of that too. So they sort of get Liger and he's like, I'm going to put him on my shoulder. This is Sting. This is nice Sting. He puts him on his shoulder and he just runs him into the turnbuckle upside down. Like, what are you doing? They're taking total advantage of him being
taking
small.
Liberties.
Really are. They just chuck him around. The crowd boo when Erik Watts finally gets the hot tag in what I think is only time they've built to a hot tag in history. And the person's got it and they've gone boo. He does his big it's just awful. I slightly feel for him, but I don't, because he shouldn't be in that position. But he throws Williams into the ropes and he tries to do a drop kick on him and he can't do it.
Yeah.
And he does a sort of, instead of going horizontal, he just goes vertical and he's got his leg out and it fucks up. Williams goes into the corner and then Watts does another one. And it's the second one that's even more annoying.
Because you've seen what went wrong the first time.
Yeah. No, I can do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't that, it's part of that's the way wrestling goes. He's like, fuck, I fucked it up. Let me do it again.
There's nothing worse than like fucking something up and then doing the exact same thing and trying to turn it around, because it just
completely. It also, rather than go, oh, he can do a drop kick, you've just gone, well, at best he does 50-50. He can and he can't. But the other thing is you just go, oh yes, I'd forgotten it's a choreographed thing. And so he didn't do that move and he's like, I want to do that move. And that is genuinely annoying. When Watts is pinned by Dr. Death Steve Williams, with Bill Watts both crying and wanking, the crowd do cheer. They are cheering Sting getting through, who is, far and away the most popular man on this card. But I think they're also cheering Erik Watts being pinned. He was beating lots of people, like Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton.
Right.
People were really, really furious about that. Not least the wrestlers. What is noticeable is that Erik Watts, after this run in WCW, which is completely cut off at the legs when his dad gets fired, he never ever manages to parlay it into a wrestling career.
Right.
You look at all of the people on this card, they are all, legitimate Hall of Famers. There's an argument to be made for all of them, with the exception of Van Hammer. But the reality is, Erik Watts, he had a brief run in WWF as a jobber tag team, essentially called Techno Team 2000.
Techno Team 2000.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I think we might have to try and find some of the matches they had.
Techno Team 2000.
Get ready for the techno.
Oh, Techno's spelled Takno. It's got its own Wikipedia page.
Yeah, team with the other guy was called Chad Fortune.
Right.
And he was famous, really, for being the only person who was a worse wrestler than Erik Watts.
Chad A. Fortune is a monster truck driver, former American footballer, tight end, a professional wrestler, and there's a picture of him from 2014.
Ooh.
And he looks like that.
Oh,
he's dressed
as Captain America, really fat Captain America.
Yeah, he's wearing like an official Captain America Marvel. Well worth a check out.
I believe he actually was a monster truck driver in the dying days of WCW, and he'd been signed there, and they used him as he drove the WCW monster truck.
Yeah, so someone sent over a load of scans of the monster trucks in WCW, and there was some real kind of because Hulk Hogan's is like I think he's tearing. There's arms outside
the radiator.
Yeah, he's like tearing the radiator, but it looks a little bit like Goatsy. Goatsy is like pulling his arse apart.
Yeah, do I remember Goatsy? You've seen Goatsy once, you never forget it. They do advertise the next pay-per-view at this point, Super Brawl 3, which I thought, after the first two matches that we've seen, that was quite a bold decision to imagine people would like to see more of this.
Well,
question about it. Super Brawl is going to be exciting, but here during STARRCADE, the granddaddy of them all, Larry, coming up next.
A lethal lottery match between Dustin Rhodes and Vader versus Kensuke Sasaki and the Barbarian.
I like that Jim Ross and Jesse Ventura are really ramping up their kind of, we don't work with each other anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, it's all about communication. It's like digging Jim Ross on air.
Yeah.
The Barbarian and Big Van Vader, and they're going to shake hands. Look at that. Great sportsmanship, Ross. Great sportsmanship. Come on, admit it.
It warms my heart.
All right.
4 big tough boys.
Big tough boys.
Big thumpers.
And I think Jim Ross is even ramping up how many times he talks about sports that aren't WCW, that aren't wrestling. It's just like, stop talking about hockey.
Yes. And they bring in an NFL player.
Yes, they
who
do.
has to really, like, he's selling the importance.
Paul Hornung.
Right, yes.
Paul Hornung.
Hornung.
He looks like the bloke who owns Weatherspoons.
He did. Or a man, if you went to Travis Perkins, and they'd go, let me go and get the gaffer.
Yeah.
And he'd come over and just go, what's going on? You know? But he really puts over the NFL Super Bowl ring. And then he has to go, and I'm sure, like, you know, your version will be just as good.
Just as ringy. It's probably similar.
I mean, you know, the two sports are entirely... I mean, it's laughable for me to even suggest it's going to be like this. But he sort of gives a history of the Super Bowl ring as well.
Yeah.
I did have a quick look to see if there are so few of those rings that were made. So Sting won it. Muta will win it this year. They will later, in the next year, they have a separate BattleBowl pay-per-view. It's not part of STARRCADE anymore, which Vader wins. And then in 1996...
That's going to need adjusting.
Yeah.
Big fans.
And then in 1996, they bring it back under the title Lord of the Ring, and Dallas Page wins it. So there are 4 Battle Bowl rings out there. And I was like, I wonder if anyone's ever sold one. And the reality is all 4 of those men were big enough stars that they didn't have
need
to hawk their stuff. Or like Maven didn't
Totally.
have a storage unit where everything was in, and then they didn't pay the money for the storage unit and it was repossessed. And it ends up on television. So, do you know what's funny about it? They did talk about that ring a lot. And I was like, I'd like one of those rings now.
Why don't we make there must be reproduction ones, surely, isn't it?
I have got a set of reproduction Hall of Fame rings.
Have you? Right,
from
okay.
over the years. Yeah, that was a Wish thing. But they're really good quality.
Oh, like a wish.com thing.
Yeah,
they do those.
Chinese place doing the, you know, as they change them over the years, you get a sort of like, you know, historical sort of historical. I mean, that's the same thing as like the Danbury Mint use, you know, where they're like, you know, our historic plate of Princess Diana, you know, that sort of thing. They are worthless, but at the same time, I would very much like a artificial and repro Battle Bowl ring.
We'll get one of those like mood rings that you used to have in like the 90s and sort of carve it out.
It would be really good for us
compass.
to actually go, we're gonna get this made. You know, we are going to cast them all, and then when you open up the little jewel, there's Dusty Rhodes' Willie. Or
a little joke.
Yeah. That picture of Seth Rollins that his angry ex-fiancée posted online, that comes up. Someone can say, is that a Hall of Fame ring? You can go, no, look at this. A winky. Kensuke Sasaki, again, oddly in this. He appeared, I think, in the Great American Bash in Masachono's corner. Weirdly over with the crowd as well. He's no different from any of the other Japanese performers.
Couldn't figure it
if
out.
If anything, he's got less flashy tights.
Yeah. He's not got any stuff on him.
No, but they love him. They just go, yeah, this guy.
Yeah.
This guy.
It's interesting how that sort of pans out, isn't it?
It's weird. Do not understand it. What you get here as well at the start is a very Bill Watts idea. So he has Vader and the Barbarian face off. And again, you know, obviously Vader is tough as nails. And Barbarian is quite famous for being a tough guy. And so Bill Watts has that real sort of... I imagine two big boys leathering each other and smacking 7 shades out of each other. But he puts those guys together and they have a sequence. The crowd don't care for it. You know, Barbarian's been, you know, jobbed out too many times. Doesn't really have any power. And like all of these matches, they're just putting together things that the crowd just aren't that interested in seeing. And it's the second match that ends with a schoolboy roll-up, which is annoying when you see them back-to-back. Dustin Rhodes and Vader go through. There's a good bit where Vader just gives Dustin Rhodes a big clothesline at the end, and it's a really thudding big
it's a meaty one, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. And over he goes. There's a funny bit where the commentators immediately forget the point of the lethal lottery, which is that you go through to the Battle Bowl.
Right.
And so both of them go, oh, why did he do that to Dustin Rhodes' partner? And there's a pause, and it's almost like someone's spoken in his ear. And Jesse Ventura goes, well, because they're going to Battle Bowl, will they be against each other? And it's like, keep the concept going, lads.
I don't understand why
What's race do? Come on! What's the purpose of that?
I guess they're trying to eliminate him from BattleBowl. Unbelievable. Look at that.